Hey there, it's Fat Puppy here, and I am standing at the edge of what used to be known as the Cedars Plantation. Now granted, it's been a long time since it's been known as that. Probably about 150 years ago, 170 years ago maybe. But this used to be known as the Cedars Plantation. It's at Highway 521 in Beckwood. And this used to be about 800 acres that belonged to a man by the name of Joseph B. White, who was born in 1772 and died in 1852 at the ripe old age of 80. So land used to belong to him. Now, let me point a couple things out to you before I get into the personalities and the people buried here, okay? First off, if you go and you follow that tree and then the tree right behind it and follow in a straight line to the edge of the woods, you'll step in a hole. There used to be a grave there. I know, because this is what I did last week when I was looking for this place. This right here used to be heavily wooded. And then Summit Realty bought all this land, built a subdivision over here, real nice, large subdivision. And they made the promise, because there's a cemetery right in that line, there's a cemetery there, a small cemetery. And they wanted to move it so they could have shops right here. And they were told, no, they can't move it. So then they said, well, what they would do, because some other people got in and had some things to say, is they would clear this land out, restore the cemetery. There's some busted up headstones in there. As a matter of fact, it's in real bad shape right now. Put a nice little fence around it and give it honor that it's due, because it's a very old cemetery. The oldest stone in there, I was told, is from the 1830s. But what they did instead, that was in 2002 that they made that promise. They built their subdivision back there. They did that, and it's a nice subdivision. Then they sold this land here to a church that was looking to expand. And that church, that's the building right there. And I don't know what happened. I don't want to make accusations, especially that's a fine church, fine preacher, fine people. I've visited a few times. You know, I have nothing to say about the church. But the promise was not carried out. I think some of the land was cleared. I think all of this was heavily wooded too. Now I remember driving past on 521 going, oh hey, there's a cemetery back there, years and years and years ago. And I came and I explored. I would have to walk a trail from the backside, which is where I'm at, the backside. I'd have to walk a trail through the woods, but it wasn't thick at that point, to the cemetery. And it was fairly wide open. Well, now it's covered in thorns and brambles, and you cannot move around in there, and you will see what I'm talking about. So, they partially kept their promise, because they cleared some of the land. They did not restore the cemetery. They did not put up a nice fence. And I don't think this church was encumbered by such promises. That's a project I don't think this church could have handled, to be honest with you. Not to that degree. So, let's move along. The hole that I was speaking of is right there. I don't know that you can see it, but I was walking along. And let me just show you something. Let me show you something here. I hope I don't mess you guys up by doing this. I'm already tangled up here with this thing. See this? There's fairly clear land there, or real clear actually. Then all of a sudden it's thick. I mean real thick, unpenetrable thick. And then right here, excuse me, get you guys set up here. There's a hole. I mean, you're not gonna fall in it, but you'll sink. And when I come back here looking for these tombstones, because I knew they were here, let me back up a little bit. I found myself sinking a little bit. And I said, oh, wait a minute. I looked down and I looked around and I said, this ain't where a tree fell or something like that. This is a grave site. And I happened to look 10 feet. 10 feet on the other side of that tree, about 6 feet. There's a marker that from here I couldn't see unless I just knew it was there. Who's buried here? I hope I can show you some of the stones. I'm not even sure I can. So what got my attention years ago, everybody that I seen in this cemetery whose name was Brunson died in the 1850s. It was Dr. Wesley W. Brunson, who died in 1859 at the age of 35 years old. He was a doctor now, and he was 35 years old. His wife died in 1855, 4 years earlier, and she was 25. And they had 3 or 4 children that all died also. Sally, who died in 1852, the day she was born. William Henry, who died in 1853 at 3 weeks old. Sidney Britton, who lived to be 11 months old. Now this is the oldest living child, lived to be 11 months old, who died in 1855. And then Sarah, the wife, Sarah Britton Brunson, who died also in 1855. She died 2 months before the baby died. And I tried to see if, you know, by looking at the dates, if she died in childbirth, and it wasn't that. I don't know what happened. All of them died, including Dr. Brunson himself. Now, I read his will, and in his will, written in December, and he died, let me get my notes together here. He wrote the will in December, and he died a few months later, June, I think. And as a 35-year-old, he wrote, being a feeble body, but of sound mind. So I don't know if he had been sick or if he was sickly. I don't know if disease ravaged the family. I don't know what happened, but they all died. Also buried here, there's about 30 people total buried here. Dr. Brunson makes up, him and his family make up 5. Then there's about 25 others whose names are White, Delorme, and some others that I've done forgotten. Joseph B. White buried here, and he was buried in 1852, I think is what I said. And I think that Dr. Brunson, 1850, what did I say he was? 1859, I think he was the last one buried here. Nobody else was buried here. I don't know why. They are buried and hard to get to. I knew they were back here. I just had to find them. They're not too far off the beaten path, but they are very well hidden. W.W. Brunson, who was a doctor, and his wife, Sarah Ann. And looks like she died in 1855. I couldn't make out no dates on his. Plus there's 2 stones right there laying down. Whew, took a while to get here and figure this out. Oh, there's another collapsed stone there. And just to give you proximity where that's at. I don't know if you can see it, but over there is where Dr. Brunson's laid to rest. I've also noticed right through there, again, I don't know if you can see it, it looks like there's 2 stones that are standing. Almost walked right past them. I was within 3 feet and walked just about right past it. I can't get in a position to see who it is, but that's here. There's one there. It looks like one must be laying down over there. Well, this just gets more interesting. I just found this. Cleared it off a little bit so I can read it to you. This is, here lies the remains of Mrs. E.M., I think, Miller, wife of J.J. Miller, who died 9th of August, I think that says 1849, age 22 years, some months and 16 days, I believe. There's that. Right here's a bunch of bricks underlying these leaves. That's usually an indication of a marker. Don't know if you can tell, that's a shallow place in the ground. It looks like there might be a small marker right over there. There was a fence here. You got your bricks right there. And then I uncovered that. I should have brought a whisk broom or something to do this with. I am totally unprepared for this. I wasn't going to go crashing into the woods. And then there's more stones here. and here and there. Okay, so here's another one in memory of Judith Emily Magdalene, daughter of T.W. and H.C. Lee, born December 29th, 1853, died in 1854. I can't really make out the letters. This is the tombstone of Joseph Barton White. I believe he was the first one buried here. Well, I don't know about that. He was the one that owned the land though. This was his plantation, Cedars Plantation. I don't know how Dr. White ended up with it, if he was related or if he ended up with the land. There it is. Mr. Joseph Barton White. I believe that was from 1772 to 1852. Wow. That was a bit of an adventure. I wasn't counting on going through the woods like that. I'm itching now from all the thorns and stuff I came across. Whew, I should have brought my machete. But I was only planning on going right to that stone there that you probably can't even see. About 8 or 10 foot into the woods. I wasn't planning on going through all that. But I see a stone, I had to go chase it down and see what was what. Someone asked me if I was going to try and clear this out. This ain't my land. It's private land. I assume it belongs to the church. I don't think it belongs to Summit Realty. But it's not mine to clear out. I'm here to memorialize it as best as I can. Well, with that, y'all have a wonderful day, and I got to go edit this video. I got a lot of clips I got to put together.